Respect it, we network across the globe, cause it's a global market in case you didn't know. And since we all about information flow, let me be the first one to welcome you to Tech Zone with Paul Amadeus Lane. Let's talk tech, cause technology changing the game. It's all good in the hood, it's everywhere. Now let's get to the show, cause we live on air, yeah.
I can't believe the show is almost over, Sean, and I still don't have any crust. What's going on? Sean, give me my pie with my crust in it so I can show everybody on social media. Sean's a great guy, my man, Sean Nickerson. Engineer extraordinary, heck of a gamer, too. Got to have Sean on to talk about ELOS. Did I say it right, Sean? If not, he'll correct me. It's a game out there he loves to play. Sean is the bomb, that's all I have to say. Well, we're in the third part of our show, and it's been a fast-paced show with some great guests. The guests make the show. All I am is just the waiter, bringing the dish to you, the audience out there, and just bringing all these great guests. And thank you so much for listening to them and supporting them and checking them out on their journey. Healthcare enrollment time, folks. Affordable Care Act. What went wrong? What were some of the right aspects of it? We know in this past political season that one's had a lot of different mindsets of it. What to do to pick the right healthcare for you and your employees? Maybe you're a small business owner. Well, there's a company out there that's helping you to navigate to make the right choice. And I'm so honored to bring on our next guest, founder and CEO of EaseCentral, joining us, David Reed. David, how you doing, my friend?
We're doing very well. Thank you for having me today.
David, it's an honor having you, my friend. So let's talk about how EaseCentral technology is helping small businesses navigate HR, employee health benefits, and all that great stuff.
Sure. Well, before I like to start, what a lot of people don't realize is that small businesses represent over 98% of businesses in America. There's over 6 million of them. They employ 60 million of us across the country. And what's been very common is this industry's been very, very well served by support such as insurance brokers and consultants, but it's been very underserved by technology. So one of the keys to EaseCentral was to develop a platform that's very, very simple to use software that a small business owner or a small insurance broker that doesn't specialize in this type of thing can learn how to use, as long as they're just computer friendly and have basic navigation skills. And the other is to scale it in a way so it could be affordable. I equate it to something like the airlines trying to fly a 747 from Los Angeles to San Diego. It just doesn't make sense. What we created was a solution that scaled for the small business.
Awesome. And we are so thankful for that, David. And David, when it comes to this technology out there, was it something that you saw a need for when you started off as a business owner, or were you a part of a business and you said, well, if we had this will help the business run a bit smoother? Share that journey with us, my friend.
Absolutely. In fact, this hits home very close to me. I was an insurance broker originally. And that goes back about 30 years. I was in the industry, and almost all of my customers were small businesses. They were anything from a hair salon or a garage or a small auto dealer with 5, 6, 7 employees. And sure, I had clients that had 40, 50 employees, but most of these businesses were small. And they wanted the efficiencies that they would see that large companies could get. And they wanted the ability to be able to shop and get competitive rates the way small business or large companies do. So one of the keys and one of the very, very first things that we put in the software was the ability to get all insurance company rates and compare them side by side, so a small business owner could get the best rate, and not just once in a while, but any time, and to be able to ensure that the rates are always competitive, because cost is important to a small business owner.
I'm glad you said that, David. In the industry that I'm in, sometimes my colleagues, they have the sky's falling kind of mentality when it comes to rates and everything, especially when it comes to healthcare, the Affordable Care Act. And I'm glad we have you on, because we know that President Obama talked about healthcare rates increasing. Now, let's talk about that in small businesses, because you're in the industry where you can really tell us the truth about what's going on. So let's talk about that and your thoughts and how your company can help ones just to make sure they're getting the best bang for their buck.
Sure. Well, there's no easy answer to this, and people should be concerned because health insurance is something that everybody has to have, and it's also something that's pretty expensive. And unfortunately, there's not going to be any magic solution to bring costs down. One of the things I caution people is to be realistic. First of all, when we see programs that offer subsidies to help pay for premiums, they certainly have a place, because if you can't afford the cost of insurance, you're simply not going to be able to pay for it, and you need some help. But those subsidies don't necessarily reduce the overall cost of the plan. In fact, they don't even dent it. The premiums are still there and the costs are still there. So one of the things that I think is, in a large sense, is we all have to become responsible consumers, just like we do with everything else we purchase. How much does something cost? And to shop for quality and to become more aware of these types of things. Now, in the short run, what's important is that primarily business owners, even though it affects individuals too, but business owners, to make sure that they have an easy way to shop and find coverage affordably. Hold on.
Okay, no problem.
I'm in a LEED certified office building, and the lights turn off automatically to make sure we save energy. So if I don't move enough, the light goes off.
No, that's fine, David. We're going green, man. This is the way we do it. Saving money and everything. But I'm glad you said that, because that brings up another good question about what really went right with the Affordable Care Act, what went wrong with the Affordable Care Act. And please, being in the insurance industry and also having this company, let's talk about that.
Sure. Well, let's start about what went right, and that is bringing the spotlight and the attention on the fact that not everybody has access to health care. And again, as I said before, we do need to have subsidies because insurance is expensive, and people at certain income ranges are just not going to be able to afford it. And they deserve the best health care that everybody else has. It should be universal access for everybody, along with some individual responsibility. A couple key items that I think were great with the ACA. One was allowing the ability to keep dependent children on a plan up until you're 26 years old. And I think this is a popular provision. The other is eliminating the underwriting for pre-existing condition limitations, because certainly a health plan that's not going to cover your illness doesn't do you a whole lot of good.
Absolutely.
So those were two very, very good things. What went wrong? Well, one is the subsidies, these very subsidies that people need to access insurance. They were limited to purchasing coverage that was only available on the either federal or state exchanges. And one of the things they could have done was make these subsidies available for any qualified plan. So you or I can buy any plan that we think best meets our needs, whether it's on the exchange or not. That's key to having competition. The other is how they standardize the benefit designs. The ACA, in an effort to create an apples-to-apples ability to compare plans, in my opinion, went a little bit too far, because what it did is it said, here are the essential things that must be covered. And it also went a step further, and it said, here is the way these need to be displayed to the consumer in the form of what's called a summary of benefit and coverage, an SBC. Now, I don't want to throw lingo out, but most of us who are with an employer are probably accustomed to seeing these handed out now, these forms, on a very standardized basis to compare the different provisions, such as a deductible and coinsurance. So what happens in a competitive market environment? You define exactly what benefits are going to be displayed to consumers, and you lay them out to shop side by side. Well, you get what you ask for, those benefits. So certain benefits weren't included in that SBC. Most of the carriers dropped them. For example, in California, chiropractic care is a very widespread benefit, but virtually none of the ACA group plans even cover chiropractic care anymore for that very reason.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And I'm glad, again, that you're sharing this with us, because this is something that we need to know, especially we know now what's going on. Everyone's picking their insurance. And you touched on one thing that is dear to my heart, and that's pre-existing conditions, because I was involved in an automobile accident back in 1993, became a quadriplegic. And the fact that I can have benefits now, and not be turned down for it, that's huge. I mean, I'm going to be a quadriplegic for the rest of my life, so I'm going to need some insurance for the rest of my life. So I'm glad you really highlighted that aspect of it and what ones can benefit from.
Well, kudos to you. I did not know that. I would not even have known from seeing you in this interview that you were a quadriplegic. So, again, hats off to you. But you are right. Pre-existing condition limitations should not be allowed. And when I say individual responsibility, it kind of falls into a few different areas, but I'll point out two. Number one is that people should be required to maintain continuous coverage.
Hmm.
That means that you have to have coverage at all times. If we had a system where coverage was guaranteed issue and there was no limit on pre-existing conditions, some people may take unfair advantage of that and only purchase the insurance when they need to have it. Second, again, and not to sound like a broken record, this is where subsidies are very important. If you lose a job and you're in between jobs, I don't care how inexpensive they make your health insurance, you're not going to be able to afford it. So you're
Absolutely.
going to need help. If you're low income, you're going to need help. And I can't tell you what the exact answer to this is, but we need to have a reasonable level that people are expected to pay, which is affordable. And then again, expect people to maintain some responsibility and keep that coverage continuous because there is no insurance pool in the world, whether it's run by the United States federal government or a private carrier, that can effectively operate if the only time people contribute is when their costs are going to exceed what they pay in. It's a shared responsibility here.
And David, let's talk about, if we can, for a second, about which businesses are required to make sure that they give their employees health insurance. Is it a specific number, or how does that work? Because we've heard various reports, especially here in California, of which businesses are required and which businesses are not. Can you shed some light on that for us, my friend?
Well, when we're talking about health insurance, it's companies that have over 50 what would be considered full-time employees. And the ACA has some flexibility in how it is that you measure what would be considered a full-time employee. But let's just say, for all practical purposes, if you've got people that are there on a regular basis that have worked more than 90 days and they work more than 30 hours a week on average, they're going to fall into that category most likely of being a full-time employee. And if you have 50 or more of those, then you are required to provide what's considered to be an affordable health plan. And that would include a plan where your cost as an employee doesn't exceed 9.5% roughly of your W-2 earnings. And then that plan would have to meet certain criteria. But it does bring into question, when you asked earlier where the ACA went wrong and where it did some good things. I personally think in the definition of affordable, the ACA didn't
Yeah,
really go far enough.
that's true.
You know, if you make $50,000 a year, 9.5% of your income is almost $400 a month, and that would be your contribution for just single coverage for a plan that could have a deductible as high as, say, $3,500 or $5,000. Well, if you're spending $5,000 a year just to cover yourself, you're not even talking about your family at this point, and you have a deductible of $5,000. That's 20% of your income before taxes that could go out the door to pay for your health care coverage. It's too expensive.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. And we know in the political season there are a lot of political candidates that talk. They're going to do this, they're going to do that. There's a President-elect Trump now, and a lot of people are wondering. He during the campaign he said one thing, now he's saying another thing about the Affordable Care Act. So I guess ones would like for you to put on your Karnak hat, David, if you can, and try to predict the future of what President Trump will do or won't do for the healthcare industry.
All right. Well, what I do think is going to continue is subsidies. And I think the provision of keeping dependent children on a plan until you're 26 and having plans not limit coverage for pre-existing condition clauses. I don't think that that's going to go away. I think that the subsidies are going to be broadened out to include plans beyond the exchanges. I think that that's very likely based on his orientation towards market competition. I think that we're going to see the ability for plans to sell across state lines. I think we're going to see an increase of what we call level funding plans. And these are plans that are more creatively structured that allow businesses who want to say be a bit more proactive in incenting and participating in employees living a healthier lifestyle, and as a result, reducing their company's healthcare costs to be able to share in that and to give them an incentive to participate in those types of plans. And finally, I think things are going to become greatly simplified. The ACA brought about a lot of reporting obligations for small businesses. And businesses with 50, 60, 70 employees are finding now that the cost of just filling out the forms to comply with the ACA could be $10,000 or $20,000 a year.
Wow.
And the majority of employers are already compliant with the law voluntarily. They didn't need to have to produce these reports in order to show that they're compliant. I think that's something that comes with the infancy of a big act like this, and that as we start to move forward, they're going to find better ways to streamline the process for businesses to meet their reporting requirements without the arduous task that's involved, the time and the expense.
David, thank you so much for sharing that with us. And before we let you go, is there anything else you'd like to articulate about EaseCentral or about healthcare, about benefits out there that you would like ones out there who are small business owners and even ones who are consumers looking for insurance out there? Anything else you'd like to articulate to them?
Sure. And I will say this, I don't stand alone as EaseCentral. There's other companies like us out there. But one of the things that is important for you as a consumer or as a business owner to make available to your employees is access to accurate information in order to make decisions, transparency, tools that allow your employees to know where they can go to get the best possible cost, where they can go to get affordable measures that help them engage in activities that reduce the cost of their health care. Whether you're healthy or if you have some type of an illness, whether it's diabetes or hypertension, a lot of us, we might want to drop a few pounds. Access to resources and tools to participate in those and be incented to do so is not only going to reduce your employees' costs, it's going to reduce your company's health insurance costs. And the key is to use technology tools like EaseCentral that make it easy for employees, whether they're on their phone or mobile device or computer, to have access to that needed information.
Well said. And David, how can ones get more information about your company and how they can reach out to you guys and really find out a lot more things that we weren't able to discuss in a short period of time?
EaseCentral.com, EASE Central.com. It's the best way to get in touch with us, whether you're an insurance broker or whether you're an employer or whether you're an individual. We can steer you in the right direction.
Awesome. David, thank you so much, my friend. We'd love to have you back on next year and see how things are going in the healthcare industry. And maybe we'll have a little bit more things to report on this as we get reports about just how the health industry is going and just really getting your insight on what's happening.
All right, Paul. Thank you very much. It's much appreciated to be on your show.
Well, there it is, folks. What did I tell you? Technology is everywhere. It's helping us. And David Reed and his company at EaseCentral is doing that with their technology when it comes to healthcare. We hope you enjoyed that interview. We'd like to thank all of our great guests joining us. If you missed part 1 and part 2, you can always catch up on demand. Go to paulonwheels.com. That'll get you to my YouTube channel where you can check out the videos. We post all about it all the time. It's been an honor being with you today. Look forward to chatting with you next week. Sean, get me off this crazy thing. Remember to love those who are unable to love themselves and turn someone's smile. I'm sorry, I messed it up. Turn someone's frown into a smile. Hey, this is real, make mistakes in radio. But hey, till next time, take care of yourself.